On today's show, there should be some roster change with the Cavs, but who should stay? Who should go? Spencer Davies from Cleveland Cavaliers on SI here with me today. We're going to talk about all that on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, and a number of other stops along the way. Joined today by Spencer Davies of Cleveland Cavaliers on SI and a number of other stops as well. And thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for us. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell as we get started here so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, because right now new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins with FanDuel. Spencer, a year ago right now, we were talking about whether or not the Cavs should separate the core four. They had lost in 5 games in the second round to the Boston Celtics. This year, I think the conversation is a little bit different, but they still lost in 5 games in the second round, albeit to a different team in a much different situation. But I do think we are at a point where it is worth talking about what this roster should look like moving forward. So the exercise I wanted to put us through today, very simple, a game of stay or go. We are going to talk about essentially every player on the roster, if we have time, and kind of discuss whether or not we think they can or should be back next year. And if not, maybe some viable replacements. I wanted to spend the first segment talking about the core four, because I do think that there are 2 very easy answers, and there are 2 other ones that are pretty complicated. So I'm going to group together Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, because I assume we are both going to stay on each of these guys.
Yeah, no question.
They are, I think, 2 of the, so I asked this on Monday's episode, and I'm actually curious for your thoughts here. When all of the publications that do the NBA rankings, because everyone does them, near the end of this summer, like ESPN will have its top 100, The Ringer, Yahoo probably will, NBA.com might, like there will just be a bunch, Sports Illustrated, there will be a bunch of those rankings lists. Are the Cavs going to have 2 guys inside the top 15 when that happens?
I don't think they'd put him inside the top 15, but when you look at obviously the All-NBA selection for Evan Mobley being on second team, does that make him technically a top 10 player in the league?
He had the way I've been phrasing it is he had a top 10 season.
There you go. Exactly. And then you know that Donovan Mitchell's going to be in that conversation in the top 15 for sure. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't. And I mean, making a first team and doing what he did this year, being rewarded for stepping to the side and helping Evan Mobley grow and helping the rest of the core four grow. I think that also played into effect, and also just having, even more of an efficient season than he's usually had. And I think that goes a long way, and the voters were very aware of that, and also helps that you were on the top team in the Eastern Conference throughout the season. So, but yeah, top 15, it could absolutely happen. I don't know if it's obviously in the eyes of the beholder with that one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that'll be a very interesting thing to follow as that comes out later in the summer. And of course, we will be talking about that a lot when that day does get here. So those 2 are obviously both stay. I think they're both untouchable, or as near untouchable as it gets. And then we move on to where I think the conversation gets interesting, because Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, obviously the 2 other members of the core four, I have proposed that we stop calling it a core four, Spencer, because I don't think Jarrett Allen is a core piece. I think he's a very, very good role player, but I don't think he's a core piece in the same way that Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell are. But I want to start with Darius here. Stay or go?
Stay. Would you like my reasoning?
I'm in the same boat, and I'm curious your reasoning. But I'm in the same boat with Stay because I don't think Darius is near his peak as a basketball player yet. Like, I think that he still has a lot of room to grow. I think that what we saw from him this regular season was a nice reminder of, oh yeah, this guy is not only like an all-star caliber player, but he is somebody that, if everything breaks right, could find himself on an all-NBA team. And that, to me, is worth hanging on to.
Most definitely going to be an all-NBAer in the future. He's able to manipulate defenses with his eyes, and he's able to draw attention in different ways than Donovan is. Donovan's the one that just kind of goes and runs right through you. You're forced to send a couple at him because he just plays with such up gear, shift high, whatever you want to call it. And Darius is more of the mental manipulator, I think. And you can watch it happen in real time when he's got the ball in his hands, how defenders react to him. And, you know, my favorite is the read option play where he turns a corner and one of his pick and roll partners goes up for an alley-oop, but it might be a floater. It might be a little drop off. It might be a spray out to the corner. That's what DG has in his bag. But let's not forget, too, the catch-shoot ability of Darius Garland. To be able to play that de facto two guard if you need him to as a shooting player. And even the pull-ups got better this year, and he's been more confident letting it fly. Get him up to that 10 to 11 three-pointers per game average of attempts. Like, that is where you want to see Darius grow the most. And I think he got back to being himself this year, which is a big part of why I think they need to hang on to him. And it's funny to me, he's been in the league, 6 years, whatever, and 25 years old still. There are guys in basketball that don't stop developing until their career's done. Like, there are guys that don't hit their stride. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but don't hit their stride till they're like 31, 32, and they like finally get it. For Darius, I think it's mostly about the physical element of it. And I know people hate this comp, but it's the closest thing I can think of is the Steph Curry physical development and maturation over time. And when did Steph really start getting out of his shell when that core started to form in Golden State? It was around 2014. And that's when they really took off. Steph was drafted, in 2009, I think, or 2010?
Yeah, 2009, 2010 was his rookie year. His first All-Star season was that 2013-14 season. And again, we're not saying that Darius Garland is the next Steph Curry because I don't believe that to be accurate.
No.
But, and there's a lot that goes into that. But Steph's first All-Star season was his fifth year in the league, which Darius made it before his fifth year in the league, when he was 25 years old, because you too have to remember Steph spent more time in college at Davidson than Darius spent playing at Vanderbilt, where Darius played in, I think, 5 games in 1 year. Yeah. And Steph was, I think, a 3-year player at Davidson before he entered the NBA. So not only was he not an all-star until his 5th season, he also had spent far more time in college. Like, when Steph made his first all-star team, he's the age that Darius Garland is right now.
And there you go. And you can also look back at Steph and his injury history early on in his career. It's just very similar paths. And I think that's why it's a good situational comp, not talking about skill set, not talking about what Steph does off the ball, because Darius has a long way to go before he gets to that point. But just in terms of the body and the physical and even the mental, as you go along and gain more experience and you go through these playoffs and these situations that keep trying to knock you down and get back up from, then eventually you push through. And I think Darius has that ability, and I think that he understands what it means to be a pro now. And if he doesn't get it in the next couple of years, then yeah, you're having a different conversation. But I don't think it's fair to pin on him what he's gone through to this point. Like the jaw injury, complete freak accident, the eye injuries, way like random, and then a toe injury of all things on a closeout where he didn't even step on anyone's foot. Like, it's quite frankly bad luck. It's bad luck, and I don't think that should be something you hold against Darius, because it's not like it's soft tissue stuff.
Do you think that he is being unfairly judged for this postseason? Because I don't know, Spencer, that people understand like how painful and how, I guess, limiting is probably the best way to describe that toe injury that he was dealing with, where if you were watching those games and you came out of that still questioning, why wasn't this guy able to play in games 1 and 2 against the Indiana Pacers? Like, he could not move. He looked like such a shell. He looked like just some random guy got to put on the Darius Garland jersey and go play. Like, he did not look like Darius Garland in that series against the Pacers. And that is the one thing that I keep coming back to too, as far as like buying stock in Darius Garland, if you will, is that I still believe in this guy as a postseason performer. I think a lot of the reasons that he maybe hasn't been as good in the playoffs as we would expect him to are maybe a little bit out of his control.
I think so too. And I feel like what's telling about Darius's impact is that in game 3, he didn't even have that great of a game. And yet he was so instrumental in that because he was able to provide another ball handler, someone that was a point guard who could set the table and obviously was shifty enough to get by a little bit. I know he didn't have his full range of motion like you're just talking about, but even just him at 70%, if that, was such an impactful add to the team. And like you said, it's unfortunate that these things have happened to him, but I feel like it's going to be better for him in the long run. And especially for the mental and knowing the kind of pressure that puts on you. I want to say it just makes you better. It makes you better because you have to go through these experiences like Kobe was talking about. And for Darius, I think that he's starting to gain that perspective over time. And he's going to be hungry, man. He's got way too much talent. He is one of the best, like, change of direction guys. And that's exactly why the toe was a terrible thing. Because when I was, talking about those injuries during the Indiana series, I likened it to football, man. It's like, turf toe like stuff where you have to plant curl routes, out routes. Like, he moves
Just
side
running,
to side a lot.
not moving straight is anything that's not moving straight is really, really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And even moving straight was challenging for him.
Yeah, and you play with the spacer in the toe. He's got the plate in there. And then, like you said, you could see it on his face how much it was killing him inside. When we were in Indiana in that locker room, you could just see, like, he had to pause when someone, like, talked about him playing through that. And he's like, y'all have no idea what I'm going through. Like, and you could see it. Like, it was frustrating to him. And I'm sure it was frustrating to his team. But I think you credit the guy for playing through that. And anyone that questions his physical toughness, I think, is very off base here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, but we're on the same page. Darius Garland should be a member of the Cavs moving forward. I don't know if we're going to be on the same page with Jarrett Allen. I don't know. Spencer doesn't know. Neither of us know. We're going to talk about that next right here on Locked on Cavs. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action than right now with FanDuel, because FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and while the game is going on as well, with live betting, with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart, and of course, win big. Maybe you think Oklahoma City is going to win the title. I certainly do. Maybe you don't think that. Well, you could bet on somebody else, or you could just bet on any game. And not only is basketball going on, baseball is here too. There's stuff going on every single day. One of my favorite things to do, honestly, just bet on somebody to hit a home run. I'm not necessarily going to sit and watch an entire baseball game. I'm a busy guy. I've got stuff going on, but I love being able to pull the highlights and see if the guy I bet on went deep. And you can do that too with FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, now is the perfect time to sign up, because you can head to FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Place your first $5 bet. If that first $5 bet wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. It's $200 in bonus bets to use on anything if that first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you again for making Locked on Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Spencer, we talked about Darius Garland. We talked a little bit about Evan Mobley, a little bit about Donovan Mitchell. I think Jarrett Allen is kind of the biggest piece that could realistically move for the Cavs this year. I don't know if he will. I know what side I'm on here, and I think people that listen to this podcast probably know what side I'm on here. But where are you at with Jarrett Allen, and why?
So I think that it may have reached its peak with Jarrett. And I don't think that's an indictment on him. I just think that you look at Evan Mobley's growth as a player, and you drafted him to be your 5 of the future. You drafted him to be the best player on your team of the future at that time. I feel like those things are kind of crashing at the same moment.
Okay.
And that's where Jarrett can become expendable. I think just based on Evan Mobley's development and maturation with his skill set, with his ability to stretch the floor, with the Cavs' ability to play a little faster, his covering of range. Like, I think that he's gotten better as a rim protector too over the years, whereas like you used to not be able to play Evan at the 5 because he would just get bullied. I don't think Evan gets bullied quite as much anymore, and nor will he in the future as he packs on more pounds. I just think that part makes it more difficult to keep Jarrett around. Now, when you talk about Jarrett, you know he's better than what he's had because his role kind of got scaled back with the development of Evan Mobley, with the development of Darius Garland, and obviously having Donovan Mitchell in the mix. You know he's a 2012 guy at minimum if he is a high-usage player. He is not a high-usage player here. It is where he's now relegated to setting hard screens, being the cleanup guy, and protecting the rim. That is his job. Is it worth paying him the amount of money that he's making to do said job? And then you look at his salary also increasing next year. This is where you kind of come at that crossroads and you see that Evans getting better, and can start at the 5. You look at a backup, you're going to need a backup in that case, and you have to obviously do that, figuring out what deals would work out best. But I just think that has kind of hit its peak between those two and that Evans kind of outgrown the pairing.
Yeah, and I do think, too, it's worth bringing up. And the day that Kobe Altman and the Cavs made the trade for Donovan Mitchell, I immediately said, the Cavs are not betting on Donovan Mitchell. They're betting on Evan Mobley. And that has continued to be true. And that bet, I think, has looked better and better every year, even if the postseason success hasn't followed quite yet. I do think that if you're still betting on Evan Mobley, and to be clear, I think the Cavs should be betting on Evan Mobley. I think that he is somebody that is capable of being a top 5 player in the NBA within the next couple of years. If you're still betting on him, I don't know that you're maximizing him if Jarrett Allen is still on this roster. And that is nothing against Jarrett Allen, who I think is a very good player. I think he's a very high-level role player. I don't think he's a star. And everything I said about Darius Garland still having so much room to grow, I don't know that Jarrett Allen's getting any better. Like, I sort of think that Jarrett Allen is who Jarrett Allen is, and he's probably going to be this guy for a few more years, but I don't know that he hasn't reached his peak. And the thing that concerns me about him, I am not sure that he's a playoff player. I think he's a guy that you would love to have for an 82-game season, but I'm not so sure that he's a guy that is, 1, versatile enough, and 2, just kind of has that 16-game factor. Like, I don't know if that's something that can be easily quantified, but you know it when you see it. And I just think, I'm not sure if he is somebody that puts the Cavs closer to reaching their postseason goals.
What sucks is I do think he's a playoff player. I just don't think he can sustain it over that time. I think that you get playoff player Jarrett Allen 1 every 3 games. And that's just not something that's
You're not a playoff player then. For a playoff player, you've got to be able to do it every night. Like, if you can do it 1 every 3 games,
right,
that's great, but you're not a playoff player.
Well, what I'm saying is he's capable of it, I guess, but he doesn't have it every night. And I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. You play all 82 games, you play each playoff game, you play literally every game of the season and playoffs combined. I agree with Kobe Altman. That shows a level of toughness, mental and physical. That does. There's a different level to it, though. There's a different tier when it comes to the playoffs, though. And other than that Magic series, I thought he was really good in the Magic series before he got hurt. I think that he was fantastic against Orlando last year. But other than that, just have not seen that in the playoffs consistently enough to say that should be a member of your core. That's just where I'm coming from in this iteration of a team. So don't get me wrong on that too, by the way. I think Jarrett Allen could absolutely be a core player elsewhere. He can absolutely up his usage percent to 20, 21, whatever it has, in pick and roll situations. Like I said, minimum 20 and 12 guy, get you a couple blocks a game, amazing defensive rebounder. That's the other part of this that's really difficult to figure out, because the Cavs, if they were to go another direction from Jarrett Allen, they'd have to figure out the rebounding piece, because that's a gigantic part of what Jarrett brings to the table. But I think it's an avenue you have to explore because of the things we just talked about. Evan starting to rise and the low usage. It just makes sense to me.
And to be clear, I am in the camp of they should be looking to trade Jarrett, but they shouldn't just be looking to give him away. Like, if they trade Jarrett Allen, they need to trade him for a deal, that they think makes them a better playoff team. They should not be trading Jarrett Allen just to trade Jarrett Allen. I do not think that this is some, other than maybe Evan Mobley getting better, I don't think that this is some addition by subtraction thing. And I think Evan's going to get better no matter who's around him, because I think he's that caliber of player. But I don't look at this as, oh, Jarrett Allen's gone, the Cavs are going to be better. Like, that is not at all what I'm trying to say here.
No, and you need a starter level player back for Jarrett Allen. No questions asked. That is where the negotiations start. And then maybe you look at trying to get a second rounder. Maybe you do a 1-for-2. Like, I know I floated out on my podcast with Spencer German, Courtside with Cavs on SI. Some people hated this. Some people loved it. And, you can probably go either way on this one. But I was thinking, just with the Jonas rumors, that maybe Bobby Portis might be available. I know he's got an opt-out coming up here and he's going to be a free agent, but just thinking in terms of sign and trade, look at maybe trying to nab one of those role players off the bench for Milwaukee, whether that's a Connaughton, or if they'd be willing to maybe part ways with AJ Green because of what you got going on with Ty Jerome and Sam Merrill. So the kind of wheels were spinning in my head with that. And I know Bobby, you covered Bobby. And I think he's a playoff player for sure. And he adds that element of toughness, both grit and the mind too. But that was just one I was spitballing out there. I know a lot of people have been linking him to New Orleans because he's been linked there for the last couple of summers. I'm sure, some team like Sacramento would check in because they've got stuff going on. It could
they always do. They're kings.
They are. They're the Browns of the NBA. So those are the things that we were just kind of kicking the tires on.
So I will say, if the Cavs do move on from Jarrett Allen, it's important, I think, for them to have somebody capable of playing real center minutes. Mm-hmm. Because I think Evan is more ready to play, he's ready to play more center than he has in the past. But I don't think he's ready to play only center. And I have done this for the last year. I have likened this to the 2020 Lakers that won the title in the bubble. Anthony Davis, when it mattered, he played center for them. But you know what Anthony Davis never did? He never started games at center. Anthony Davis was their starting power forward, and then when the things actually mattered, he became the center, because it was very easy for Dwight Howard at that point in his career, or JaVale McGee, for those guys to be on the bench because they were not people that were considered to be core players. And Kenny Atkinson did this sometimes with Jarrett Allen, but I think it's a difficult thing to do. So I do think it's important that they have a role player caliber starting center that they can feel pretty easy about. Hey, you didn't play in the entire fourth quarter because Evan played 12 minutes of center.
How do you go and find a way to get Steven Adams?
Him, Jonas Valančiūnas, guys like that, guys of that ilk, I think are what they need.
Yeah, DeAndre Jordan. I mean, I don't know. He's getting a little bit older.
He might be a little bit past that.
But
age.
To play 12 to 15 minutes is what I'm saying. Someone that's younger on that side that I think would be a really nice fit. Orlando, Gogo Batadze. I think he's pretty solid too. So those are the kind of
name that I've had thrown out to me as somebody that would make a lot of sense in Cleveland. Yeah, he's a name that I have heard.
Yeah, Goga. I don't know what the Nets have 1,000 centers, but a Day'Ron Sharp. That also makes a lot of sense to me. Those types of players, you want to get your Mitchell Robinson per se, right? That's what you're looking for.
That's exactly it. Well, we do have some actual role players that we need to talk about next. We're going to do that. A couple of free agents, a couple of guys that maybe could get traded. That's straight ahead right here on Locked On Cavs. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. If you're watching the show on YouTube, do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for us. Click subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. Spencer, you brought up Ty Jerome. I think he's the next one that needs to be talked about because, as you know, he is a free agent. And this is much more, I don't know if it's much more complicated, but it's certainly different than any of the conversations that we've had so far in the first two segments. But how aggressive, if at all, should the Cavs be, in your opinion, in trying to retain him?
Well, he was pivotal this year, first of all. Like, you just look at the regular season and his ability to change the game. Come in, organize, shoot the heck out of the ball, slow step floaters. He's fantastic. So that's one thing. Depending on what he's being offered, what his market is in free agency, I think that's where you look at it. I don't think it's what are the Cavs willing to offer. I think that you have to see what other teams are trying to throw at him, and then you make a decision from there too, because you have his, early bird rights, 175% up to the cap. You can pay him, and Dan Gilbert can foot the bill if you need to. But I thought it was interesting in listening to Kobe Altman when addressing Ty Jerome, when addressing Sam Merrill, talking about internal development. That kind of caught my ear a little bit. And so it wasn't as clear-cut of an answer as I thought he was going to give. I was like, oh, yeah, like we were trying to get Ty back. Like, he went to internal developments to start that, and that immediately pointed my mind to, oh, they're going to give Craig Porter Jr. a shot. Oh, they're going to give Jalen Tyson a shot. Like, that was the perk up in my ears from that particular answer. But if they can get Ty back on a team-friendly deal and figure that part out, and maybe he just wants to win more than he wants to play in a Charlotte or a Brooklyn or wherever, then you obviously explore it.
And of course, be around two of his best friends in DeAndre Hunter and Donovan Mitchell. Like, I do think that the relationship aspect of this stuff does matter. Now, Ty's not going to take, the veteran minimum to stay in Cleveland, but I do wonder what that price tag is. I do wonder. So there are a few teams that have cap space. I would not anticipate any of those teams using their cap space on Ty Jerome. If he goes elsewhere, I think it's because he got the mid-level exception from somebody. I think the Cavs feel pretty good about their chances to retain him. Not great, but like, it's not some long shot that Ty Jerome is back in a Cavs uniform. At least that's the read that I've gotten, is that they do feel as if, that they might have to move some other things around that we'll get to, but they do feel as if retaining Ty Jerome is possible. The other question I have with Ty is how real do you believe his season was? Because he is somebody that I very much think should have been the most improved player. And I know he didn't qualify for that award, but I think that award fits him better than the Sixth Man of the Year award did. Like, he's somebody that the guy he was the year before to the guy he is now, like, nobody improved more than Ty Jerome did. And that, I wonder, is Ty the guy that we saw during the regular season, or is he going to be the guy that we saw during the series against Indiana, where he had a very, very rough series? Like, what is real, or what gives you belief that Ty Jerome is going to be real moving forward?
I think it's somewhere in the middle. And I know that's always the opinion I bring to the table, notorious fence sitter and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I think it's somewhere in the middle.
Great for podcasting.
I know, I'm just so entertaining. But I feel like you're not going to top out, or are you topped out that last season as far as your shooting percentages, as far as the luck that he had in some of those shots, he put in all the work, and he came back from that ridiculous ankle injury that kept him out the whole season, his first time here in Cleveland. Kudos to him for doing that. Again, game changer, comes in and in 20 minutes just lights the world on fire. He doesn't win the Sixth Man of the Year award because he doesn't play as many minutes as Peyton Pritchard. He had just instant impact, and that is something that you cannot take away from him. And I think that that's something he can continue to have. I don't know if he's going to shoot what he did from beyond the arc. I don't know if he's going to have a floating percentage of probably 70. I don't even know the numbers, but like, it seemed like all of those.
It felt like he never missed. It felt like he never missed.
It did. It just, I guess, depends on how much you're willing to overlook what's going on the other end, though, too, because defensively, he had some nice quirks about him, like the reaching to grab the ball from behind and poking out steals. That stuff's work. That gets you possessions. Staying
that
in front.
happened early in the season. I do think that got figured out. I think
It
that
did.
got figured out. Like you saw Ty have those Ty Jerome steals for like the first
Yeah.
month and a half of the season, and then you really didn't see it much after that.
Right,
Like
exactly.
he started to pop up in game plans.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, because he knew that he would be pinned on their back. So when you look at trying to stay in front of his man, and when you try to look at defenders who are bigger, more nimble, more, I don't know, physically highly statured, like you said, the Indiana series, like got played out because Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard were not letting him get by. And then on the other end, he was getting just absolutely toasted. That was the word I like. It was hard to watch. And Kenny ended up just taking him out of the rotation flat out by the end of the series, and he tried to put him in for a spark, which almost worked in Game 5, but it was just clearly not him. And they figured out Ty Jerome. And I was a little bit surprised. Like, I wasn't totally surprised because those guys, again, are very good on their feet. They know how to shuffle. They know how to stay in front. Andrew Nembhard's one of the most underrated players, I think, in the league in the playoffs. And then Nesmith, obviously, has had a terrific postseason. But Ty just could not get by. And that's interesting to me because Ty doesn't play at a super high pace, like super fast when he drives. He's very unorthodox in the way he gets to his spots. He's just like kind of slanky, like I don't know how to call it, but he finds
He's
ways to
unique.
get there.
He is a unique basketball player in the way that he gets into the lane. I think he plays at a, we spent so much of the series against the Pacers talking about the tempo at which they play.
Mm-hmm.
Ty has a unique tempo. It's like an individual tempo. It's not a team tempo. It's not, the Cavs play faster or slower with him on the floor. He individually plays at his own speed that nobody else on the Cavs plays at. And very few other guys in the league play at this tempo.
Yeah, and it's hard to figure out, too. That's why he's been so effective more than, obviously, just the Indiana series. Like, he is a tough cat to figure out and how to defend and know, okay, is this guy going to take a mid-ranger when he steps in a dime? Is he going to slow down and shoot his little float shot while in transition with a couple teammates surrounding him no matter what? Like, is he going to pull up for three in transition? Like, it's really tough to figure out Ty Jerome. But if you're able to slow him down and he starts getting uncomfortable, if he's not playing as comfortable as we're used to seeing him play, then yeah, he's beatable for sure.
Yes, he certainly is. We have several more players that we have to get to. Sam Merrill, certainly chief among them. There are a couple of wings that I think could be potential trade candidates. So we will get to all of those as this show is going to now become a 2-part episode because we've talked so long about 5 guys on the team, I think, so far. So we're going to do that. That will now be Friday's episode. This is going to be Thursday. So Spencer doesn't know this, but he's going to have to record another 20 minutes because he talks so long. So that's just where we're at with these things. So thank you for making this, I guess, impromptu part 1 of a 2-part episode with Locked On Cavs. Your first listen today and every day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, as we get out of here for Thursday, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. We'll be back tomorrow talking about the rest of the roster.